and welcome back to Waterhouse Forde. It's been a while since we did a video. As I mentioned in my last video, obviously we had a bunch of other projects that we needed to undertake, and obviously been working on those. But we are slowly getting back to the Ferguson, and in this video what I want to do, you'll recall that we purchased a remanufactured dynamo for the Ferguson. We tested it, we got that, we confirmed that was all fine. But we also, I pointed out at the time that there was a fair amount of surface rust on the body of the dynamo. Now you can see that I've done some sanding, you can see that I've cleaned that up a fair amount. But to get the final finish, I guess, that I want before I put some paint on it, I'm actually going to mount this in the lathe and just spin it not too fast, but just so that I've got some mechanical advantage. And using some emery paper, just try and clean that up a little bit more. Once I'm happy with that, we'll wash it or clean it down with some probably just some thinners, and then we will go ahead and start putting a couple of coats of paint on it. We'll get a primer on, probably 2 coats of primer, one thin, one thick. And then a very light coat of paint, black paint, high temperature black paint. So we'll do 3 coats of black. We'll do a light coat to start with. The middle coat will be slightly heavier, and then the third coat will be heavy. And that should give us a good finish and a reasonable shine or gloss. It's not a gloss paint, so it's not going to be glossy, but it should give us a reasonable finish on this on the dynamo. Now, again, just for those of you who may wonder, the starter is in black and the dynamo is in black. Obviously, the majority of the tractor is going to be grey, it being a grey Fergie. But I feel that having the black starter, black dynamo, the distributors black, the cooling pipes are all black, I think it gives it a nice contrast to have. Just not have everything grey. So that's what I'm choosing to do. I know that that's not entirely standard. It's not the standard colour scheme, but it's what I'm choosing to do. So anyway, I thought you might find it interesting to see how we go through preparing and then ultimately getting the paint onto the body. You'll notice that I haven't stripped the coils out. I believe I can get this done without doing that. At least I hope so. I'm just going to have to be careful of this terminal. Come a bit close so you can see we've still got the terminal in there. Just need to be careful of that, but I do believe I can get that in the chuck and get it mounted safely without having to take the field coils out. Yeah, so let's get on. Okay, I've got it mounted in the lathe. It took a little bit of doing, but I think I managed to do it now. I did have to bend. First of all, I had to change the chuck teeth, not teeth, jaws, and I did also have to bend that tab up a little bit just to get it in so that it could sit up against this face. But that's now nice and tight. As I said, we're not going to spin it up really fast. This is quite a heavy piece, and as you'll see, it's got a slight wobble to it. Obviously most pronounced on this side, but it's enough to let us do what we need to do. Now the good thing with this lathe is that we can go backwards and forwards, which is quite nice. But just starting with some rough, I think this is 80 if I'm not mistaken. And just hold it against there, let the machine do the work. get it in, run it in reverse. So you see that giving quite a nice finish. Now the problem, of course, is you've got these irregularities. Not irregularities, but it's not a perfectly smooth cylinder. The screws create a bit of a, you see before and after you get a bit of a gap or a blemish almost. There's obviously the seam in here as well, and on this side or on this end you've got the rivet for that terminal, so it doesn't, the sandpaper can't quite get in there. And then you've got the step. I've managed to get most of the step done with the sandpaper, but not 100%. But look, that's doing most of the work for us. I will probably need to do a little bit by hand just to finish it off, but this is getting most of the work done. I think we'll go a little bit more with this 80, and then we'll drop down to, I think it's 120 I've got. I'll just check what speed we're on. We're at 397 revs per minute, so call it 400 revs per minute. So quite slow. That seems to be coming on quite nicely now. That's what I did there. I don't know if you noticed. I kind of put the emery cloth across the body like that, and that managed to get rid of most of that flat spot that we had over here. I mean, it didn't get rid of the flat spot, but it managed to clean the flat spot, let's call it. It's interesting. There's like a line here. There's no obvious reason for it. It must just be some sort of blemish in the actual metal. I'm going to go a little bit more on there, see if I can get rid of it. Now that's obviously quite deep, whatever it is. But look, we don't need a perfect finish here. We're just looking to clean this up, ready for painting, really. So yeah, just moving to this is 120 grit, just to smooth it off a bit. If you don't have a lathe, you could try do it in a drill press, although I think this might be a bit heavy for that. You'd have to create some sort of carrier for the, to hold the body nice and securely. I probably wouldn't recommend that, actually, thinking about it. The only other way to do it is obviously mount it in a vase and manually do what I'm doing here, backwards and forwards, going all the way around the body as evenly as you possibly can. And that will get a good enough finish to, for paint. I've got the lathe and so I can, but it's not absolutely essential, is what I'm saying, to go this far. Trying to get up into that step. That's pretty much it, I think. So that's given us a pretty good finish. Right up in the groove here, we can't quite get in there. And we seem to have a bit of a flat spot there as well. But look, as I say, it's we're just preparing for paint. We're not looking for a polished finish here necessarily. So I think that's good enough. I'm now going to get a reasonably clean cloth, and we'll just wipe this down with some spirits, some thinners, in order to make sure we get rid of any oil or grease or anything like that. And we'll slow it right down now. We don't need to be going very quickly. Quite a lot of dirt came off there. I'll try and find a clean spot, a relatively clean spot. Do it again. Okay, I think that'll do. Still a little bit came off there, but I think that's relatively clean now. Okay. Right, I'm happy with that. I'll move over now. We'll get set up for paint, and while this is drying, we'll get set up and maybe at least get the base coat on. Okay, I've just got it standing on a piece of wood so that it's not touching the paper. I did hit it with a bit of brake cleaner just to make, because obviously moving it over here, I had my hands on it, and obviously there's oils and stuff on your hands, so I just quickly sprayed with some brake cleaner as well, just to make sure that there's nothing on it. I'm just using this grey primer in a rattle can. It's acrylic grey primer, and it's the same brand as the paint I'm going to use, so hopefully they're compatible with each other. I do have red oxide primer as well. I'm just thinking with black, with black it might be better to use red oxide. Let me just grab that rather. Alright, sorry, there you go. Red oxide primer. Simonis, if that's the right pronunciation. Now you'll notice that, and what made me think of that, inside you can see they already did a red oxide primer. So my guess is that that's what they used before. But maybe that's not a good thing, because of course it didn't fare very well. It actually managed to get some surface rust on it. But anyway, let's go. So just as a reminder, for primer, I like to do 2 coats, and the first coat just light, basically just to get it on there, get reasonable coverage, and then the second coat just normal, right? A little bit heavier. Make sure that you've covered everything, and then you can move on. And normally about 10 minutes between coat 1 and coat 2. So here we go. Got to pay attention to the edges, bottom and top. We tend to, our brains tend to focus on the center of an object, not on the edges. So you have to make a conscious effort to hit those edges. Right, that'll do for the first coat. We'll leave that for 10 minutes or so. And we'll come back and do the second coat, and that will probably be it for tonight. Of course, for you the video will continue, but I will come back tomorrow and we'll work on the final, basically on the color. And for that, as I said, we'll do three coats. So a light coat, a bit like this, with the color black. Second coat will be what I would describe as a normal coat, and then the third coat will be quite heavy. Again, 10 minutes between coat 1 and 2, and about 20 minutes between coat 2 and 3, and I find that gives you a reasonable finish. If you read the instructions on the can, it'll tell you you've got to basically wait for it to dry completely. I don't do that. I basically just wait for it to tack up. As soon as it starts, it's basically gone tacky, and it's it's basically over the hump essentially, and it's almost dry. That's when I hit it with the next coat. And of course, the thicker the coat, the longer it takes to dry. Hence the differential between sort of 10 minutes and 20 minutes between coats 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. But anyway, I will come back when this is ready for the next coat. Okay, I'm back. And look, it's actually only been 5 minutes. This paint is drying quicker than I expected it to. But essentially that coat is dry to the touch, and in places you can feel that it's still got a little bit of tackiness, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So we'll now move forward with the second and final coat for the primer. There we go. I think that'll do. Make sure the edges are covered. Yeah, that looks good. Now I'll bring you in a little bit closer so you can see already you're starting to get the shine that I'm talking about. What I mean by shine is not actually shine, because again, this is not a gloss paint, but you can see the paint is forming a nice smooth surface. Let me just bring you in a bit closer. So there you go. I've also put a light on so that you can, camera, focus on this thing. There you go. So you can see that's giving I mean, it's obviously still wet, so you get a little bit of a gloss and a sheen from that. But look at the surface of the paint is what I'm meaning, is that it's a nice smooth finish. And I find that I get that better when I do that first coat a little bit lighter. And when we do the final coat, I'll show you what that looks like as well. Right, well look, that's probably going to do it for tonight in terms of getting that base coat on. Hopefully that's been interesting to you, see what my process is. And basically that's my process for most things, especially the little things. When it comes to painting, the key thing for me is to get the prep done. You want that surface to be as well, you want to get as much rust off as you possibly can as well. And if it's a part where I'm struggling to get the rust off, then obviously I'll use some sort of rust converter as well. But with something like this, you can actually get right down to the base metal, so it's really not necessary. And with a good primer on, and obviously following that process, you will end up with good results, in my experience. Now, obviously, I'm not a professional. I'm certainly painting and bodywork, and generally this sort of thing is not my bag. But obviously, I do a fair bit of it, given what I do, and just sharing my experience, right, and what I've experienced to date. I'll be back in a couple of seconds for you, but for me the next day. Cheers for now. Hi, welcome back. It's actually 2 days on now. Things didn't quite work out exactly as planned, but anyway, look, we're back on the painting of the dynamo body. We're going to get on with that now. I also have pulled out the pulley that needs just a little spruce up as well, so we're going to get on with that. So yeah, just before we get on though, I just wanted to mention that a couple of things. So you're probably going to notice that we're going to be introducing a lot more projects onto the channel. We're going to start videoing other projects that we're undertaking. I mean, these projects are kind of going on all the time in the background, and we haven't been filming them. But as we're getting to probably within, I would say, 10 videos of finishing the Ferguson, beginning to think about where do we take the channel from there. There'll still be tractor videos, there'll still be the international that needs work, inevitably the Ferguson, there'll be other things that we want to do to it over time, etc. So they will, the tractor content will still be there. But I think what I'm going to start doing is start filming some of the many other projects that I get up to. Things like, ride-on mowers, push mowers, a bit of carpentry, a bit of building work, a lot of property maintenance. There's a huge amount of property maintenance that needs doing, and that is getting done. And again, I'd quite like to share not all of it, because most of it is relatively boring in terms of filming content, but there are certain aspects of it that I think I'm going to be filming over the coming month. So point being, we are going to start to see a new and hopefully interesting new content on the channel as we start to move and migrate the channel onto perhaps more general project work, essentially, and the stuff that we get up to here at Waterhouse Forde. So anyway, welcome back. Let's get on. I'll get set up and we'll get on with painting this dynamo body. Okay, so this is where we left off. Now, because it's been a couple days, I am going to spray it down with a little bit of brake cleaner again, just to make sure if any dust or anything has got on it, that will just flush it down. And as I said, I found the pulley, the front pulley. As you can see, it's got a couple of little scuffs and marks on it, so I'm just going to give that a quick spritz to tidy that up as well. But just very quickly with some brake cleaner. as I say, the main objective here is just to get rid of any dust or anything that may have collected over the last couple of days. I did actually, when I went and had a look at what paint I've got, I do actually have a gloss black, so I'm going to use that. It'll match the starter then. So we'll just give that a second to dry. Might just need to turn that over because it's kind of pooled in there. Hopefully it'll dry out now. The body is looks to be dried up quite nicely, so we'll be able to make a start there. This is still... Oh, it's coming now. There we go. Right. So again, just as a reminder, 3 coats. First coat, very light, basically just a slight dusting almost. Reasonably soon, quick succession, we'll then do a more kind of a slightly heavier coat, more normal coat, so that it's basically got full coverage. And then the final coat, which should be roughly 15 to 20 minutes later, will be a nice heavy coat, which hopefully then will give it that final sheen that we're looking for. So again, that's my process. For the pulley, we'll just we'll probably just do 1 or 2 coats, because obviously that's already coated. But anyway, for the body, we're just going to give it a light dusting. Just like that. You can still see the red oxide kind of showing through, but we've got reasonable coverage there. A bit of a patch there. Okay, so we'll leave that for just a couple minutes while it's essentially, you want it to just flash off. You just want it to start. You'll see the sheen starting to form as it dries, and as soon as that begins to settle, then you know that you know it's okay then to continue and move on to the second coat. Yeah, we'll get that. It's actually drying quite quickly. It's reasonably warm today, so it's yeah, looking good. So just a couple of ideas while we're waiting, just a few of the projects that I mentioned in the intro there. The one that many of you will have seen quite a while back now, admittedly, but the John Deere LT170 ride-on mower. Still have that. It's been tucked away in one of the barns for, must be good 3 or 4 years now. That has a blown crankcase gasket, which I have the gasket. I've got the replacement. I've got quite a bit of quite a few parts for it. It really just needs time to get on with, for me to get on with it essentially. So that's a definite that's definitely a project that I want to prioritize in the coming weeks. I don't think the Mountfield is really up to the job in terms of this property. I think this property is challenging it a bit. We seem to be suffering a lot of breakdowns this year, and in fact last year quite a few as well. And so I think that John Deere is a much more robust machine, and I think I want to prioritize getting that up and running. Unfortunately, the deck on the John Deere isn't fantastic. In fact, it's going to need quite a bit of repair work. So I think that might be quite an interesting. There might be some good content in there for the channel. A fair bit of welding, beating, metal panel beating, that sort of thing. Try and get it back into shape. and possibly a reasonable coat of paint, etc. Pulleys, bearings, belts, etc. So yeah, quite a bit of work I think to do on the John Deere. So that'll definitely be coming up. There's I've got a number of other machines that I've put away. I've been sort of keeping for a time, or when I've got time, essentially. So restoration projects. I've got a fertilizer spreader or seed broadcaster, but it's the spinning type, which it goes on the 3-point hitch. That just needs a bit of a tidy up. It actually works perfectly fine, but it looks a bit tired. And yeah, you see, that's now, I don't know if you probably can't see it on the camera, but that has now turned, right? So the sheen has sort of changed from a wet look to just a gloss look, and that means that coat is now essentially dry. So we'll move on to the next coat, and as I say, this coat is a more kind of full coverage coat. Yeah, so that fertilizer spreader, I want to get that, I just want to go through it basically. Mostly clean it up, get all the moving parts moving freely, if that makes sense, and make sure that there's no issues with any things like bearings or anything like that. And probably put that up for sale once it's done, because I don't actually have any need for it. Right, that coat's on. We'll now let that flash off again. Other projects I've got many trailers that need a bit of restoration work. I've got a tipping trailer where it doesn't tip quite as far as I'd like it to. I need to take a look at that. Also want to connect that to adapt it so it can connect to the hydraulics on the tractor, because at the moment it has a hand hydraulic pump, hand operated hydraulic pump, which works absolutely fine, but I just don't think it's got enough oil capacity to actually tip the bed as far as it should, and so actually it's half a tipping trailer essentially, which is quite painful to use. So we need to sort that out. That also needs a little bit of a tidy up. The body needs sorting out. The hinges are a bit stiff on the back doors, etc., etc. The brakes on that are really good. I rebuilt the brakes on that before we moved, because I used that trailer extensively during the move. So that, in terms of roadworthiness, it's absolutely fine. It's got LED lights on it, etc. So it's a really good trailer for road use. Anyway, so there's that one. I then have it was a caravan chassis, which I built into a box trailer essentially. I want to tidy that one up. The brakes again we need a bit of work. They just need a bit of a service really. And then just tidy up the body a little bit, and then I'll probably put that one up for sale. I've then got one of those, I call them fold-away trailers. It almost comes as a kit, and you can dismantle it a certain amount and pack it away. I think is the idea behind that. Anyway, I've got one of those. It needs, it looks like one of the suspension on one side has collapsed. So I need to take a look at that and decide whether it's worth repairing, or whether I just strip that one and use it for parts for other trailers, and or potentially sell some of the parts. I'm not sure. It depends really how bad it is. I've got an old Kubota. I think it's a Kubota. I think it's either a 1 ton or a 1.5 ton tipping trailer as well, for the tractor. That needs a lot of body work. The body is a little bit rotten, but everything else on it seems absolutely fine. So that there's a bit of body work required there. What else have I got? I have another trailer, which is, it's something that's it's obviously been homemade. I bought it at an auction, and it's completely unbalanced. The welding leaves a lot to, there's the big question marks over the quality of the welding. It looks like they used bits and pieces of essentially scrap metal, I guess just what they had lying around at the time, which is absolutely fine if that's where you are. But in essence, I think I'm probably going to strip that one. I'm going to dismantle it. We'll reuse some parts of the metal are good, as in like the chassis parts. They're actually quite strong and robust, so we'll probably reuse elements of that. I might actually rebuild it. I might just get it properly. The main problem is that the axle is too far back, so that the front of the trailer is super heavy. It's just they haven't got the geometry right. And then I think the A-frame section of it as well. I don't think it's 100% centered, so it's not a very good trailer. But it's got some good parts on it, and the body is actually galvanized tin, which is and then being painted on top, which is actually pretty good, and means that the body itself is actually in really good shape. So what I might do is use some of the body panels from that one to repair the Kubota. We'll see. Anyway, so yeah, a lot of trailer work to do. What else? There's various projects around the property in terms of like building works. I want to build a gazebo in the garden. I want to build like a decked area around a hot tub. The various projects like that. There's always work that needs doing on the fencing or the chicken runs, or there's always something needs doing. And then of course there's various projects on and around and in and around the house, in terms of decorating, repair work, that sort of thing. Loads and loads of work. And then just here in the workshop as well, lots and lots of machines that are sitting around waiting to be either serviced or restored, and then either put back into service and or sold on to their next and new home. But yeah, we'll see. Lots and lots of different projects. There's also a bunch of stuff that I know I have, which I no longer need, and that I really should just sell. But again, it's getting the time to get those things tidied up, get them ready for sale, and then also just listing them for sale sometimes takes time. So, but lots of work to do on that, which I will be doing in the coming weeks. So look, this is beginning to. It's taking a little bit longer this time. Now we're in a reasonably closed environment here, so and I can smell this. The air has become saturated with the essentially with the thinners that they use in this paint. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to go open the door just to let some fresh air in, and hopefully that will help this also to dry off. When the air becomes saturated, it obviously slows the drying process. So I think that's what's happening at the moment. But yeah, I'll be back in a couple minutes. Okay, that's now just about to turn. So we're now going to go ahead and put a reasonably heavy coat on. We need to be obviously very cautious about, if you go too heavy, then of course you get runs. We don't want runs. If we get runs, well then so be it. It's part of the character, as far as I'm concerned. But we want to avoid runs if we can. So we're going to get a relatively heavy coat on the body now. Okay. Alright, that is probably as far as I dare go without getting any runs. But that is looking really smart. I will bring you over in a second and show you a close up rather, so you can see the finish that we get in there, which is pretty good in my opinion. But look, that's that's basically the process for painting that I use. Again, as I said previously, I'm sure that there are many people with many different ways of doing it. There are obviously people out there who do this for a living. They probably know a lot more about it than I do, and may well take issue with what I do. But I found that this works for me, generally speaking, and I seem to get reasonable results out of it, which are certainly results that I'm happy with. So I thought I'd share that. It's not a massively exciting video, but just another step in the process, and obviously just to stay in touch, but also to have a little chat about the changes that are coming up, and in particular the evolution, I suppose, of the channel that you will begin to observe over the coming months. But anyway, look, I think that's going to be it. I will bring you in closer. We'll show you what it looks like with a kind of a close-up view. But essentially, that's going to be it for now, and certainly for this video. And anyway, I hope that you all have a great week, and see you on the next one. Cheers for now.